In 2017, I ran for a political seat. You wouldn't have told me that I'll fail. There are times when I have gone through horrible failure, but I have learned the art of, when you're talking to a businessman who is so charged up, he sleeps in the whole night, he can count shillings and notes and money. He's seeing customers, he's dreaming about building mansions, he's dreaming about selling. And you're telling this gentleman, my friend, one day you may wake up and there are no customers. It's like telling two people who are in love that this love may not work in the next 2, 3, 4 months if you're not very careful. It's like I was seeing and my eyes just shut. It's like a rose flower was plucked from my hand. I had a beautiful rose. It was plucked from my hand. It's like I'd lost a parent. It's like I'd lost a child, I'd lost a wife. I have never gone through excruciating pain like I did that time. It would have killed me. I would have been totally maimed. My emotions were unable at that particular time to carry that failure.
And I think that is what now we need to come to, failing forward.
Absolutely.
Because I think you've failed in politics twice.
Yes.
More than twice, I would say. Because then, from the way you've described the situation. And
I've actually failed in politics 3 times. I ran for the chairman Chamber of Commerce in Uasin Gishu. It was a horrible failure. Then I ran for, it was in 2000 and must be 6 or 5. I gave them a run of their money and they had to gang up to make sure that they edged me out. It was a horrible failure. You get me? I ran for a political seat, Tarbo constituency. It was a painful failure, real painful failure. Then I ran for the Nambale parliamentary seat. That was a reasonable failure. But I think for me, what I know is my strength is that I am always able to pick up myself and move.
I think you are the right person, because today we are talking about failing forward. You are the right person to speak to our audience because you have the authority in terms of from the background.
I think, my brother, one of the things that we should agree is that failure is there. It's just like death. It's part and parcel of us. Failing forward depends on how do I handle failure? And I mentioned it to us earlier, that failure can be devastating and it can either break you or make you. How do I fail forward? A couple of things. One, do I have the muscle to handle shame? Do I have the muscle to handle rejection? Because failure comes with rejection. Failure comes with shame. I mentioned to you and I said, failure stinks. How do I deal with the stench? Because the stench brings rejection. The stench brings shame. How do I fail forward? Because then how do I deal with these things that are around me after I fail? When you fail, everybody runs away from you. Nobody wants to identify with failure. But I've said a statement which I would want to repeat again, and I really hope that my guys, people who are listening to me would listen to me, is that in failure, there is a lesson. In every failure, there is a lesson. One of the things I have done done to myself is I've always had the strength to recollect myself. Had the emotional intelligence or energy to sit back and refocus, reflect, internal reflection. You get me? Ask myself, so what went wrong? Even when I failed in politics, I sat with my team and this would blame, they would say this and that and that. But I knew, that I still need to call a meeting with myself and ask myself, what is this that went wrong? And then be honest enough to confront it, because without honesty, you can't move forward. Without honesty, you can't confront tomorrow's failure. Do you get me? And so I think that's the strength that I've always had. When I fail, everybody retreats from me. I retreat back into my closet and ask myself very serious questions. One of the questions I ask is, what was the cause of failure? But then in the midst of the many questions I ask is, what are the lessons that I have learned? After that, gain the courage to come out of my closet and move like nothing has happened. But then, I've always learned to start another project. I've always kept myself busy with something. Anytime I've experienced massive failure, I never stay in my closest for a long time. I always get a project to do, a project that I love, and I'll do it with all seriousness to bring back my confidence, to build up to build me up. I would always do that project. That helps me to come out of, the failure environment, the shame and the rejection, and it gets me back out of, it gets me back on track. When I failed in politics in 2017, I got into a project to do. I had my own reflections, and I got seriously into a project to do. When I failed in 2022, I came out of self-reflection, got myself into a project to do, something that I love, to regain back my confidence. You need to have enough emotional intelligence to handle your emotions. Otherwise, you break down. Otherwise, you sink into depression. And that's the strength of a businessman. That's the strength of a businessman. And I think if you're able to handle shame, if you're able to handle rejection, if you're able to manage your emotions, if you're able to get out of self-reflection and begin to move forward, that for me is failing forward. Looking at the lessons that this failure has taught you and building on those lessons for the next agenda. That to me is failing forward.
Failing forward, sorry.
You're failing forward. You're failing forward. And as I said, failure is good, but failure is also bad. Failure is good because some of the lessons you draw from failure are eternal lessons. They're eternal lessons. They are lessons I drew from failure in politics, failure in business, and they're lessons that have stuck with me for years.
What are some of those lessons?
Relationships. When I could just not handle relationships. I said that before, in a previous podcast, that people are important.
Social capital.
Social capital, I mentioned that people are very important. And I drew those lessons when I failed. Yes. And I've noticed that people are extremely important. Maybe I wouldn't have known to that depth if I never failed.
So that's one mega lesson that you've drawn from
Yes.
from failure?
Yes.
As one thing that young people are told and encouraged is to fail fast. I don't know if you've ever come across that. Fail fast, because the faster you fail, the faster you will succeed. How can you relate to that?
Well, I think, fail fast as make sure you start and fail.
Yes.
That's a very interesting way of looking at things, because nobody plans failure. I think that would be a wrong way of looking at something, where you go into something anticipating failure. I think tell them just do it. In case you get failure, then that should not devastate you. But as I said, failure, lessons learned from failure, lessons learned from pain are some of the eternal lessons that will remain with you for many years. Lessons learned when you're marrying, when you're happy, when business is nice, are not lessons that stick, but lessons learned out of pain. Sacrifice by blood is sacrifice that remains forever. Sacrifice that is done on a table of luxury and merry is not sacrifice that remains. And that is why the sacrifice, even the sacrifice of the cross,
One of pain, extreme pain, to death.
To death. We would never have remembered Jesus if he never died. We would never have remembered him if he never went through extreme pain. Because pain gives us lessons that are eternal. So failure, if you have the courage to draw lessons from failure, they give you lessons that are eternal. And they change you. They make you. What makes a wise man? A wise man draws his wisdom from many moments of failure. It is in those failed moments that they draw wisdom. I'll give you my journey. And then why do I say social capital is important? If I'm to explain, investment, I'll give you my journey of investment, where I have very much failed. And I'll tell you why early investment on either A, B, C, D is important. If I was to talk about, insulating your business with insurance and things like that, I would give you stories of the way I failed and the way it didn't work for me by not doing 1, 2, 3. And then I'll tell you it's important that you get yourself insured. If I was to talk about family, I'll talk about my journey. Do you get me? I'll give you my success, but I'll also talk about how I have terribly failed. I think those lessons, those very valuable lessons.
And there will be a chapter on politics.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a huge chapter on politics. I'm not too sure I'm done, but maybe I'm done. I'm not too sure I'm done, but maybe I'm done, because it keeps on coming and going. It's like a cold. Today you have a cold, tomorrow it's not there. But when I talk about politics, maybe not competitive politics, maybe I'm very astute about leadership. I'm very concerned about leadership, and it doesn't have to be at national level. It doesn't have to be at the political front. But I'm very concerned about, even leadership at my village level. And so I would just not retire from political leadership, so to say, but I'll be very, very instrumental in what's happening within my environment. Who is going to be the political leader tomorrow? Who is going to be president tomorrow? Definitely I'll be concerned, but maybe not playing central as in the one standing to be elected. Yeah.
Success is part of failure.
Absolutely.
And failure is part of success.
Absolutely.
If you were to use words to put them together and put it into your perspective, as you've come from early 90s to today, You've failed, you've succeeded, and the two are conjoined. If you were to use words to describe the two as being very good brothers, what would you say?
Wow. I need to have done some poetry to bring this point out. Success and failure live in the same house. Success and failure are like brothers. Success and failure are like sisters. They relate. They walk together. There is no human being, who has ever achieved success without having rubbed against failure. The most successful people, greatest successful people in the world, are people who have failed several times. Success in itself is good. Some of the most successful people are people who are endowed with great wisdom. Most of this wisdom, they never learned it because of how successful they are. They never learned it because of the heights of success they have gone to. Some of the greatest successful people have learned experiences, valuable wisdom from their journey of failure. Their failure informed their success. And so I want to say here today that anybody who aspires to succeed, there is no time that you'll never fail. But any time you fail, sit back, draw lessons, learn from your failure, and relaunch. Every successful person has always had a journey of failure.
Mm-hmm. That's very powerful. I feel like we should end it there, but then I want to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
Is a lot of money a cushion against risk of failure?
No. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not a cushion, because the fact that I have a lot of money does not mean... You see, failure is not just about money. You know, the way you're looking at it is that success is defined by money. It isn't. People fail in different ways. For example, I can do something that is not really money or related, and I'll fail, but I have the money. So failure is not just about money. I think failure is failure depending on what was my vision, what was my purpose, what did I intend to do. You get me? So money does not define success, neither does it define failure. Purpose does.
Expound on that more, because I think a lot of people will be left out. When it comes to understanding. Just broaden it a bit.
What is my purpose? What do I really want to get? When I talk about purpose, I would not everybody is into making money. Not everybody is into trading and profiting. There are people who their purpose is not that. And purpose can be defined by different things. Money is just a small factor. So if, I'm a businessman, my purpose, for example, as a businessman is to make profit. If I don't make profit, it defines my failure. You get me? If I make profit, it defines my success. If my purpose, for example, is evangelism or bringing about a church, if I succeed in building up a church, it defines my success. If I fail by not building up a church or evangelizing to people, it defines my failure. I do not want us to see money as the key measure of success. We will be failing greatly. Money is not the key measure of success. It isn't. Purpose is. What's your purpose? What's your fulfillment? What gives you joy? What's your adventure journey? What do you want to see fulfilled in future? That's your purpose. If you get to where you want to go, that to me defines your success. Some of us as business people, we are here to trade for money. Not everybody is. And not everybody listening to this video is thinking about money. No. Because success is not, we cannot define success with how much money we have or how much money we don't have. We will be limiting the definition of success. Success is defined by whether we achieve our purpose or not.
So is failure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If I don't achieve my purpose and I failed, that's failure. If I get my purpose, that's success. But money does not define my failure. Neither does it define my success. It doesn't. Unless my purpose, and I think our discussion here today was more about money, isn't it? Then in that context, when we look at money, if my purpose is to get into business to make money, then in case I don't achieve profits, Safaricom, for example, shareholders don't want to know much. They want to know, is there profit? That's their purpose. Is there profit? I don't want to, if my purpose is not that, my purpose is something different. If I achieve it, fine, I've succeeded. If I don't achieve it, I haven't succeeded. I'm a father. You get me? If I don't bring up my children well, you get me?
That's the purpose.
That's my purpose. If they are rogue and difficult, very, very difficult to handle, I failed. So we have different purposes. We have different adventure journeys. We have different reasons why we live. Not every lives because of money. Money is a very small limiting factor that we shouldn't really put everything into it. Some guys say that there are people who are too rich, too what? I'm trying to get the saying. There are people who think that there are people who are rich. I'm trying to get the saying.
I think it's poor. There are the people who are so poor, the only thing they have
is the people who are so poor, and the only thing they have is money. Because money does not define whether who I am. It doesn't. So we can come and have a conversation about what success and what failure is, not in the context of money. Yes.
But purpose.
Purpose. What's your purpose? Yes, because purpose is what really defines my failure or success. Yes.
You can just give a brief concluding remark and then we can end this conversation. We can end this conversation.
I heard he's brought me back and then he said, I do not want to stop here.
So I think, first of all, as we conclude, I would like to pass my appreciations to our viewers. Yes. Within 14 days of starting this, we've received overwhelming support from you guys for the videos that we've released. We did a number of shots from our first episode and it has gone our views are very high from different platforms. So I would really like to appreciate you for that. We'll continue doing these episodes. Hopefully next time we host a different guest and then we can have Kevin coming in again to speak about something else. So really thank you very much. Our podcast, The Mind of a Leader, will strive as much as possible to go in depth into conversations that matter to you. So stay with us, follow us on our platforms, on Facebook, The Mind of a Leader, on YouTube, The Mind of a Leader. We are yet to create other platforms, but hopefully as we grow, we will be able to get into Spotify and other podcast platforms. So thank you very much. See you next week.